Today, we are talking about a paperback crime novel, so I brought my hard-boiled detective glasses. Oh yeah. This looks like a case for... I have no idea how these guys talk. Hard-boiled detective quotes. I'm as health conscious as the next guy, as long as the next guy is sitting at a bar stool. I keep 2 magnums in my desk. One's a gun, and I keep it loaded. The other's a bottle, and it keeps me loaded. Sometimes a girl's gotta be bad to be good. Hell yeah, let's do this shit. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jake, the Scary Story Guy, and today we break bread once again with the master of scary stories himself, Stephen King. And yeah, I'm keeping these on the whole time. Now, last week we covered Bag of Bones, King's 1998 novel that I personally found to be one of his weakest. But happily, we are back in prime King form with one of his most recent books, a supernatural crime novel called Later. So Later was released about 2 years ago, and it's one of the 3 books that King wrote for the hard case crime publisher, the other 2 being The Colorado Kid and Joyland. And I've got to be honest, Later is my favorite of the 3. It feels the most like Stephen King-ish. These hard case crime books are a cool idea because they're very much like a modern homage to the old, paperback, hard-boiled detective novels. And they're all written by people who grew up reading and appreciating books like that, which Stephen King most certainly did. Which I think is partly why this book feels like it was so effortless for King. I mean, you could tell me he wrote this book in 2 weeks and I would not be surprised. So Later is about a young boy named Jamie who, in the course of day-to-day life, will occasionally run into a dead person. But not just any old dead person, okay? They have to have died recently. There's a few other rules that seem to govern this whole thing. But here's the most important one. They cannot lie to him. He can ask them any question he wants, and they have to answer truthfully. Now, Jamie keeps this gift under wraps for a while. Only he and his single mom know about it. But his mom is dating a lady detective, and you can imagine how useful the police might find such an ability. So that's a pretty cool premise, I think, and King executes it wonderfully. And even though it's marketed as a crime paperback, this is definitely a horror novel as well. Jamie, let's just say, Jamie sees some shit, but in some ways the really frightening thing comes from how willing the adults in Jamie's life are to exploit him, to use his gift for their own ends. Now, King clearly views childhood as a natural state of wonder and adventure and joy, but he's never shy about muddying those waters with the bad behavior of adults. That recurring theme is nowhere more clear than in Later. Now, last month I reviewed King's most recent novel, Fairy Tale, and one of my complaints about it was that King simply did not make a convincing teenager as the narrator. But here he does, so I'm not totally sure what the disconnect was. Charlie, the narrator of Fairy Tale, was so thoughtful and conscientious, such a model citizen, that it beggared belief. I like this narrator better. He's just a kid. Okay, he's just a regular kid. And there are some fun callbacks in this to another work from King featuring regular kids who also faced an unspeakable evil. If you've read It, the 1,000-page clown book, you might be delighted by some things that happen in the second half of this book. I love the way that King's universe kind of tends to fold in on itself. It's one of the fun things about following an author through years and years of their work is not only do you notice kind of like recurring themes, but sometimes they'll even put like little Easter eggs in from their past works. And it's always exciting to see that when it's done well and it's not shoehorned in. King also quotes himself. Near the end, Jamie says something like, I once heard someone say that books are uniquely portable magic, and instantly I was like, I guarantee you that's a Stephen King quote. And yeah, it was. He said it in On Writing, which by the way is a fantastic resource for anyone who might want to become an author someday. Read that. Now, I admit I started Later about a week and a half ago, thinking it would take me like several days to read so it would be fresh in my mind when I made this video. I ended up finishing the book in less than a day, which I think is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because, damn, what a page turner. I mean, this book is exciting and suspenseful. It doesn't lag. King is crisp. He is concise, which is especially notable coming from Stephen King because, as we all know, he has a tendency to chat. But he's concise here. Doesn't say any more than is necessary, which, after Bag of Bones, I was immensely grateful for. The downside of this, though, is that the book doesn't end up being especially memorable. I was really invested while I was reading, but I also just kind of turned my brain off and let myself be entertained by it. Just let the story kind of wash over me, which is, I think, the nature of these crime paperbacks. It's sort of how they're meant to be read. And, you know, there's certainly some really vivid imagery from the book that I'm going to remember for a long time. But as far as the ins and outs of the plot, how particular characters were written, I can already feel it all leaking out of my ears. I honestly feel like I could read this book in like a year and it would just be a totally novel experience for me. Now, one last thing. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I do feel like I should at least mention the last 10 pages of this book are going to be, let's go with, polarizing. Now, this may be about a kid who sees dead people, Sixth Sense style, but even Shyamalan never cooked up a twist quite like this one. There's something at the end of this book that just totally comes out of left field. It's very Stephen King, but it's also fairly startling. Your mileage will definitely vary in terms of how you feel about it. I personally thought it was great, but then again, I'm a total freak, so. Guys, ultimately, Later is a really quick and compelling novel that is quintessential King. You may blaze through it so fast you end up not remembering anything, but hey, at least you had a good time, right? I'm gonna give Later 4 stars out of 5. Alright guys, a couple things to announce. First of all, I finally wrote another story. I posted it on Reddit a few days ago. Didn't super take off. Last I checked, it actually had 666 upvotes, but it was fun to write. And it was good to get back in the swing of writing again. Been meaning to do that for a while, so I'll put a link to that in the description. The other announcement is that I'm also getting into the swing of this video making thing enough that I feel like I can now promise something that I actually delivered on in January, which is that I am going to be posting a new video every Thursday. I guess I'm hopeful that saying this out loud will help motivate me to, like, you know, remain consistent. Or, you know, maybe it'll just help me spiral into a pit of self-loathing, perfectionism, and procrastination, and this portion of the video will end up becoming incredibly embarrassing to me. Either way, next week's video, spoiler alert, will be a review of the new M. Night Shyamalan movie, Knock at the Cabin. I'm pumped. In the meantime, thank you for watching this video, and here's hoping you survive to see the next one.